Now, during this session, I'll be telling you about the University of Southampton as a whole, before giving you an overview of the summer school, including the course choices and the accommodation. I'll then be handing over to our lead on both our international corporate governance and international entrepreneurial finance courses. That's Professor Bruce Hahn. And he's going to speak to you a little bit more about what you could be studying with him over the summer. Then there'll be a question and answer session at the end for anyone to ask any questions of either myself or Bruce. So just a quick note to say that while I am presenting, I won't be able to see the chat very easily, but feel free to type questions in there as we go along, and we will answer them at the end. All right. So the University of Southampton is a global centre of excellence in research and education, and a founding member of the Russell Group. Right. So what that means is that we are a research-focused university with researchers and academics who are addressing some of today's biggest problems and challenges through global partnerships and using our state-of-the-art facilities. So we are ranked 17th. We are the 17th highest ranked UK university within the Times Good University Guide of 2024. And 81st in the world according to the QS World Rankings 2024 as well. We have several courses within the top 100, including being the 3rd in the UK for music, 16th in the UK for fashion and textiles, 17th in the UK for finance, and 23rd in the UK for business. All of these schools are part of our summer school in 2024, and so you can guarantee that you'll be getting fantastic quality of teaching with us. Now, the university also has a very vibrant international student community with over 10,000 international students from more than 130 countries during term time. Now, even in the summer, there are plenty of opportunities to meet UK and international students while you're here and to make those friends and contacts which can last a lifetime. Now, Southampton itself is situated right on the south coast of the UK. The arrows on that map are a little bit too high. It should be south of London there. But it is a port city. It's the same port that the Titanic sailed from over 100 years ago. And there's a very large train station with links all across Great Britain. So from Southampton Central train station to London takes around 80 minutes. Meaning that the capital city is always accessible without having to pay London prices for things while you're in Southampton. Now, Southampton also has its own airport with regular flights to mainland Europe. So if you're one of the lucky people who can get to the EU without any kind of additional visa, then you can easily get to France, Spain, Germany, or the Netherlands, or anywhere like this. Many more places really quickly and easily. Now, the university itself is a multi-campus university with different classrooms all throughout the city. Most of the summer school will take place in the Highfield campus, with our sustainable fashion course taking place on our specialist arts campus in Winchester, just over 30 minutes bus ride from Highfield. Both campuses boast really green, relaxing spaces, with Highfield campus offering access to our sports centre and one of the largest university libraries in the south of England. Meanwhile, our Winchester campus houses the WSA Gallery and a more specialist library to help with the course that you may be studying there. Okay, now on to itself. So, for the broad strokes, the programme will be taking place between the 6th to the 27th of July. So that's a 3-week duration from Saturday to Saturday. So it includes our arrivals day on the 6th, as well as a day to allow you to depart on the 27th. Now, during those 3 weeks, you'll be taking one course of your choice. Each course is based on a Southampton term time module with the equivalent of 15 Southampton credits in terms of content and teaching hours. So that's equal to 7.5 ECTS or 3 to 4 US semester hours. However, you are advised to speak to your home institution to ensure that credits can be added to your program of study before you apply, if that is what you are seeking to do. You'll also be taking part in our extracurricular activities, such as our continuous professional development workshops hosted by our careers department, on-campus activities, and walking tours of Southampton and London, all included within that base tuition fee. So at the end of the program, if you successfully complete your assessments, you will receive transcripts with all other students who have attended at least 80% of classes receiving a certificate of completion. Fees for the summer school are on the screen right now. So the tuition is £2,250, and that includes a £50 application fee. Tuition for the full 3-week program and any field trips associated with that course. It also includes the social program, including those continuous professional development workshops mentioned before, and those walking tours of Southampton and London, a bus pass around Southampton, and most importantly, a University of Southampton hoodie as well. You can also see that if you apply in a group of 10 or more, we're offering a 10% discount on tuition, taking that down to £1,980 plus the application fee. Applications are open now and will close on the 10th of May. We also offer accommodation for an additional £1,245 and 75p. You'll be offered an accommodation in our Glen Eyre Halls residence as an optional extra. So these are the same rooms that our term time students stay in. So you'll be getting an authentic University of Southampton experience while you're with us. Glen Eyre itself is about a 10-minute walk away from Highfield campus and features a 24-hour reception, a fitness suite, and many other useful facilities for you to use while you're here. All our rooms are single occupancy, which means no roommates, with a private bathroom and a shared kitchen area and common room. They also include breakfast every day and dinner Monday to Friday. Now, the apartments are shared between 6 to 10 students with same-sex or accessible apartments available upon request. Okay. So for 2024, we'll be offering 4 modules, as you can see there on the screen. We have composition and sound practices research, that is our music course, international corporate governance, international entrepreneurial finance, and the White Project, zero waste design for fashion. So in composition and sound practice as research, you'll embark on a captivating and intellectual journey that fuses the realms of sound, storytelling, and ethnographic research, delving into the innovative intersection of qualitative research methods, sound art, and composition to investigate and represent multifaceted human experiences. You'll be encouraged to adopt an interdisciplinary approach, drawing from the fields of anthropology, music, cultural studies, and beyond, as you work to construct meaningful, layered narratives that engage the senses, intellect, and emotions of your audience. Now, practical assignments will encourage you to use soundscapes, interviews, field recordings, and more as tools for crafting ethnographic representations. Also, I'm going to talk about the White Project, Zero Waste Design for Fashion. So this is our sustainable fashion course. So during this, you'll be asked to research the concept of zero waste, considering the following issues currently being debated. So things like sustainability, responsibility, ethics, and the environment, and to formulate the personal body of research leading to practice-based explorations to test and consider the 2D and 3D options to these important issues, offering fashion and textile designers. Now, the material that's going to be used is called white Tyvek, and that is to eliminate the distraction of color or print, and to enable you all to explore your ambition and creativity through technique, cut, and form. You'll be shown a variety of relevant techniques and working methods to add to your own personal investigations. You'll need to consider how you work with your design research as you begin to test and explore your ideas, and your final design outcome must be zero waste. Now, as I mentioned at the start, our international entrepreneurial finance and international corporate governance courses will be talked about later by Professor Bruce Hearn, who is teaching that module. So I will leave that there for our modules, but more information on these and all of our courses are available on our website. As you can see, 2024 has a real variety of courses. It's all taught by University of Southampton academic staff and delivering a high quality experience, which can be enjoyed by everyone, regardless of your current or previous field of study. And lastly, from me, a very important slide about our entry requirements. So all of you must be at least 18 years old by our arrivals day on the 6th of July, 2024. So that means you're welcome to apply while you're 17, but you must have been born before the 6th of July, 2006. However, there is no upper age limit, so whether you're currently studying, already graduated, or you are in another chapter of your life entirely, you are more than welcome to apply. As long as you're over 18, your age will not impact our decision on your application whatsoever. Now, if you are a current student or a recent graduate, we ask that you send through a recent transcript in English shortly after your application. So this will help us assess your academic grades and your English ability. If you are from a country where English is not an official language and you have not been receiving instruction in English for at least 2 years, you must also send through proof of English language, such as an IELTS certificate or its equivalent, with a minimum of 6.5 overall and 6.0 in each component. So this must be dated within the last 2 years, though we will accept other qualifications such as Duolingo. So please do check the university website for a full list of what we offer. All of you are also urged to check your visa requirements before you make any travel plans. So because of the short length of the program, you will be able to enter on a standard visitor visa. However, you may still need to apply for this before your arrival to the UK, so please do your research before you commit. So to recap, then, the summer school takes place between the 6th to the 27th of July 2024 with £2,250 for tuition and that 10% discount for groups, and guaranteed accommodation, including breakfast every day and dinner 5 days a week, for an additional £1,245.75. So there will be an included social program with continuous professional development workshops and walking tours of Southampton and London. And of course, most importantly, 4 courses to choose from: the composition and sound practice as research, international corporate governance, international entrepreneurial finance, and the White Project Zero Waste Design for Fashion. Okay, so that is the end of my section of the presentation. You can see here we've got links to our website and our Instagram page as well. Please do go check that out and join us there. I'm going to stop sharing this presentation and I'm going to hand over to Professor Bruce Hearn, who is here with us to talk about his modules.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sam. So I think Sam, obviously Jan, Jessica, Daisy, welcome to Southampton, welcome to University of Southampton Business School, and welcome to, most importantly, welcome to Southampton Summer School. I'm Professor Bruce Hearn, and I will be hosting 2 of the summer school modules that are actually orchestrated by the business school. So the first is going to be International Entrepreneurial Finance. Now, this basically introduces the course attendees. If you choose to do this course and let's do this course, this gives you a very basic overview of the fundamental ground financial concepts and financial formulas, and how a really sure grounding in terms of the financial evaluation techniques and how we evaluate opportunities and entrepreneurial investments in terms of financing. And this is Entrepreneurial Startup Ventures. So if any of you would like to delve and would like to get familiar with a much greater familiarity with what it means to actually start a business and the terms of which you do that, in terms of which you raise finance that are needed to fuel that business, then basically sort of that venture. If you want to start a business, obviously this is and you have an inkling, maybe this is what you want to do in your future career or careers, and this is equally a good starting point, a good bedrock starting point, where you'll learn the basic techniques, you'll learn basic financing techniques, the difference between debt, for example. Debt comes in bank loans, as we know, or it comes in, for example, bonds, or equity, which is shares of ownership. And also a variety of different financing mechanisms. Banks are one, business angels are another, which are informal, which are centered on individuals. Think Richard Branson, for example. And then private equity or venture capital, which is more formalized. So think Blackstone or a number of other different particular corporate finance providers, but more formalized, but also target entrepreneurial finance and smaller companies. So the financing landscape for entrepreneurs is basically when you have your idea, you've gelled, you've got an idea, a product in mind. And then it's when you actually want to start developing that product and actually start to maybe distribute it and sell it and produce it en masse. You actually want to, maybe it's more technological in nature and you say there's less of products, but nevertheless you want to build your business and grow it and you aim for growth. And you need financing to basically shore up and prop up any type of growth or expansion in your business, and even continuity in your business over time. So financing basically is essential in terms of actually getting a good gist of what financing is available, what forms it comes into. As I said, business angels are very different from banks and are very different from, say, venture capital or private equity. And there's differences in amongst them as well. And so this course gives you a good overview in terms of what terms finance are given, which is essential for you need to know what constraints are on your business and your growth, but also what types of financing are available. So we cover angel investors. These typically lists of these are actually provided typically usefully by chambers of commerce of local councils dotted around the UK. And so typically local councils or chambers of commerce provide lists of individuals, usually they're or former entrepreneurs or people who have made money in entrepreneurial pursuits, and they love the entrepreneurial process. So as a result, they're quite keen not just to provide finance, but also to provide mentorship, like a friend, a commercial friend. And they're also known as patient capital. They'll work hand in hand with you, and basically they'll actually help to develop your business, and they'll stick with you thick and thin. So it's a very particular type of mentorship stroke finance, like a financial friend, as it were. Venture capitalists, as the photo kind of insinuates, is much more formal. So they typically have much more formalized rules and applications. You need a good business plan, which we'll be going over. You also need to understand their terms and conditions, and they'll set quite stringent in the contracts to provide finance. They'll set quite stringent terms and conditions. You need to meet those terms and conditions in order to be able to maintain their financing. So it's a very different type of financing from angels, which is business angels, which tend to be very informal, like a best friend, as it were, or mentor. So in terms of learning outcomes, and the optimal idea is for these 7 outcomes are going to be achieved by students attending the course. So number 1, you'll be able to, at the end of the course, you'll be able to show a detailed understanding of decisions and decision making in firms over their capital structure. Number 2, you'll be able to understand how they structure themselves, something called corporate governance, what the implications of their actual adopting an organization structure. So you get away from just one individual into maybe, say, hiring a number of individuals. How do you organize them? How do you structure them? What roles do you give them? And what are the implications of that in terms of financing? So number 3, you're going to have an advanced understanding of valuation techniques. So you know what financiers expect from you. Number 4, you're going to have an advanced understanding of the role of family in firms and how business groups are distinctively structured. Family and what we call business groups, which are a number of different firms all co-joined together under a joint leadership. And family typically are involved in business groups. But both of those, family and business groups, are very, very prolific. Even here in Hampshire, there are multiple examples of local families who have a number of different, like a portfolio of different businesses, and they're all under the joint control of that family. So family is everywhere. It's the basic unit of all societies. Number 5 is understanding how boards of directors are structured, so corporate governance, and the roles and what we call fiduciary duties of directors. So you're going to get a real understanding or insight into what a board of directors is. Why do we need one? What is it? Number 6, we're going to have a look at, and you're going to develop a good understanding of the corporate governance role of business angels and venture capitalists, early stage entrepreneurial finance. And then finally, number 7, we're going to contrast 2 different types of financing. This is stock market versus banks and debt markets. So in terms of, they're very, very different in terms of financial decision making. So these 2. So in essence, you're going to get a full overview, but it's very much an introductory module. So it's designed to introduce students to these new terms and to actually elaborate on these terms. You won't be thrown in at all at the deep end. You'll be gradually introduced to terms, and your knowledge will build up as we progress through the course. So I think that's my 6-7 minutes. Sam, if you're happy, we can progress on to the next set of slides. So once again, my name is Professor Bruce Hearn, and the second Southampton Summer School offering from the Southampton Business School is that of international corporate governance. So international corporate governance is very much about the structure and the design of firms. Different firms obviously do different things, but at the same time, their internal structure is also very, very different. So we start to basically ask questions about why firms are different, how they look the way they do, what functions do that serve, and what implications does that do to that particular structure or that particular organizational view have in terms of financing or external engagements with stakeholders, for example. And that also includes customers. So customers, obviously, firms are very, very important. Things like, for example, if you walk into a hospital or a private clinic, you're going to have expectations about what that's going to look like and how staff are going to behave and how things are going to be structured. Whereas if you walk into a supermarket like Sainsbury's or Waitrose or Tesco's, you're going to have very different expectations about the structure, how things look and how the staff are going to be behaving and how they're organised. So the way companies are organised has a big impact. And then to add complexity to that, which makes it interesting, how, for example, how businesses are structured and organised, and the expectations of that in one country, such as the UK, and how that is really quite different if you go to Germany or Italy or Spain or Japan, for example. So various different cultural influences have big impacts in terms of what our expectations are of how companies are structured and how their structure evolves in that cultural environment. So we'll be looking at these, taking these different aspects into account. So corporate governance is very much a system of rules, practices, and processes by which a company is directed and controlled. Corporate governance essentially involves balancing the interests of a company's many stakeholders, such as shareholders, management, customers, suppliers, finance providers or financiers, the government and the wider community. wider community is also very important. In an international context, these can be very, very different entities and governed by equally very different cultural frameworks. Even here in the UK, as I used to teach my MBA students back in Yorkshire, I was at Yorkshire University before, and basically you think how the local cultural context, for example, in West or North Yorkshire, or South, even there's differences even within Yorkshire. North Yorkshire is slightly different from South Yorkshire, for example, but the difference between Yorkshire and say Hampshire is huge. There are real differences, and compare that to say Devon and Cornwall, or to Cumbria, or East Anglia. So there's even within the UK, there's big differences in local cultures, regional cultures. So how this actually affects the running of firms, how it affects the structure of firms, and also the access to finance, for example. So in terms of cultural frameworks, and this makes corporate governance makes consideration of international comparative governance an important topic. So when we look at corporate governance and cultural frameworks of different countries, Japan versus Germany, or versus Italy versus the UK or US. Since corporate governance also provides a framework for attaining a company's objectives, it encompasses practically every sphere of management, from action plans and internal controls to performance measurement and corporate disclosure. So corporate governance as a subject is a kind of catch-all. It covers many, many different subjects, but it very nicely and succinctly rounds it off in terms of what is the relevance of these different subjects to the practical management of companies. You sometimes get lost in that when you only study, say, finance or accounting or auditing or various different aspects of management. So this brings it all together and actually synthesizes it and allows you to really understand what is the relevance of accounting or finance or management or entrepreneurship in respect to firms. National legal and political systems and associated institutional systems frameworks also impact on corporate governance and closely related financing arrangements. Legal systems and institutional frameworks around the world are really different. You can see this if you get on a plane here in the UK and you get off in Italy or Spain or Romania or Finland. They're all very, very different cultural institutional frameworks. And basically these exert huge influence over the structure and organization of companies. So the traditional view of corporate governance is a nexus of contracts. So this nexus of contracts is basically where a firm is like an envelope, so a kind of circle, if you like. And then there's that circle or that boundary of a firm is transcended by a whole number of different relationships with external and internal stakeholders. So you've got suppliers, customers, employees, workers, management, boards of directors, shareholders, bondholders. You've got all these different stakeholders that all have an influence, an impact, and have interests inside a focal firm. So international corporate governance is when we start looking at that firm in an international setting. This picture is actually Pudong in Shanghai. It's a business district of Shanghai in China. And basically we look at, obviously, China's a huge, phenomenal growth economy, and alongside many other Asian countries and countries around the world. And so this is where international comparative corporate governance, why firms are structured the way they are, how they're distinctive, and what gives the distinctive competitive edge of different economies around the world compared to, say, the UK or Europe or the US or Canada or Brazil. So what actually defines a whole economy, and what defines corporate governance within it, and what makes it distinctive and gives that competitive edge to that particular country. So we also study law and national institutions. So this is a photo of the Supreme Law Courts in Kenya, in East Africa. And so we can get a good idea here about the overall, I get at least an idea about basically the execution of law, how law is actually affected, and why a particular legal system, there's English common law or French civil code law, Spanish, Portuguese civil code law, there's Scandinavian legal systems as well, German legal systems, for example, German civil code law systems, how these distinctive legal systems distinctively shape the design and organizational structure of companies. And also very much financing, where some legal systems offer better protections for investors using certain types of financing. Other legal systems will have a very different very different protections. And so as a result, different types of financing will be applicable and more popular in certain countries than in others. And we get, in fact, the implications or the effect of law and national institutions across all the different countries around the world have huge impacts in terms of the financing arrangement of companies, their corporate structure, their corporate governance, the boards of directors. All aspects of corporate design is fundamentally and profoundly shaped by the legal and national institutions and frameworks. So learning outcomes, and number one, at the end of this course, you'll be able to show a detailed understanding of decisions facing firms over the optimal structure of executive compensation. This also is an interesting area, hot topic, who gets paid what? And it's certainly in the 1980s, 1990s in the UK with all the privatisations and so forth. And this whole term in the tabloid newspapers of fat cats, as in executives and CEOs, for example, getting paid multiple times of what average workers in those companies get. And then, of course, we have a city, financial crises and so forth. And obviously, it's brought a huge spotlight onto executive compensation and the structure of compensation. And, for example, what they get paid is base salary versus what they get paid in terms of benefits, performance-related bonuses. And then we have a huge spectrum or raft of different things like tax instruments, pension plans, all sorts of different pension plans, offshore instruments, and then derivatives and options, option plans, stock ownership, restricted stock, a vast array of innovative compensation. So we consider, at least we provide an introduction and consider these and how they impact on executive behaviour, risk taking, and why we have compensation. Number two is we understand how corporate governance affects financing decisions. Number three, we develop an advanced understanding of how legal and political systems and the institutional frameworks of countries shape corporate governance in a national setting. Number four, students will be developing an advanced understanding of the role of family in firms and also business groups. These are prolific in terms of corporate structure, and they are highly effective, highly efficient corporate designs, be it family or business groups or both. Number five, we seek to understand how boards of directors are structured, and particularly the fiduciary duties. This word fiduciary. Fiduciary duties essentially means that the roles of board of directors are legally binding, and if there's any issues with companies, they can be personally held accountable in a court of law, unlike, for example, senior managers. Number six is to show an advanced understanding of the role of public relations and corporate social responsibility, so CSR. Hot topic for the last 15 years, and companies basically stepping in to provide services that maybe say the state falters on. Number seven, students have become familiar with the empirical metrics to gauge firm performance in relation to governance structure. So how governance structure impacts on firm performance. And there's different ways of measuring it. Accounting return on assets, accounting return on equity, Tobin's Q, just to name a few measures, and you'll be able to differentiate which ones are kind of best and which ones are not so good, depending on the situation in question. Number eight, finally, students are going to gain insight and competency in terms of learning the lessons from major governance failures. Pretty much every corporate finance scandal, every corporate scandal, every financial crisis has revealed fundamental structural breaks or fundamental problems in corporate governance. And so therefore corporate governance is, in essence, the whole subject area or discipline is all about rectifying state of affairs in the wake of big scandals or big financial crises. So corporate governance is actually our critical, as a global people, our critical, if you like, toolkit with which to fix the problems that have been exposed during financial crises and scandals. And these come in many forms. I mean, in the late 70s, 80s, it was Polypec, which gave rise to the Cadbury Report. Then it was issues like Enron and WorldCom, their crashes, that gave rise to, for example, a response in the corporate governance response in the context of Sarbanes-Oxley in the US. But also more recently, the global financial crisis, 2008, 2009, and even COVID. COVID might be a medical issue, but COVID has exposed all sorts of issues, corporate governance issues, in different industries. And again, sort of this is one of the other areas where maybe an external impact such as COVID can actually highlight corporate governance failures or scandals. So overall, I look forward to hoping to welcome all of you onto this course, and you should develop a deeper understanding of why companies look the way they do, how they're different, and what the implications of those differences are between different countries. So why Japan is different from the US, how Canada, English-speaking Canada, is different from French-speaking Canada, and Canada is different from, say, Italy. Germany is, say, different from Spain and Portugal and the UK. So you're going to get a much greater understanding in terms of the differences of countries around the world and how that impacts on their corporate structure. So I think, Sam, that's me good for now.
All right, fantastic. Thank you very much to Professor Bruce Hand for that, for those two presentations, in fact.
Thank you.
Really fantastic. Thank you. I'm just going to quit that. Okay, great. So we have a few minutes left. We have had a couple of questions in the chat already, which have been answered. But if anyone has any additional questions that they want to ask, now would be time to do so. Feel free to pop on your microphone, pop on your camera if you're feeling brave, and ask a question of either me or Bruce. I'll give you a couple of minutes just to do so. In the meantime, I am going to type in our email address into the chat, because I know what happens with me whenever the question and answer session comes on. I can't think of anything, and as soon as this finishes, I can think of something. So I'll give you a space to chip in if anyone wants to ask a question. Jessica says thank you. Thank you very much for joining us. And thank you to Jan as well.
Yes, thank you, Jessica.
I take it from
thank
that,
you, Jan.
Yeah, absolutely. So I take it from that we answered everything so clearly and so in so much detail that there can't possibly be any questions. Is that correct? I'll take that as a yes. Okay, so thank you very much, all of you, for joining us. And thank you to Professor Bruce Hand once again for presenting international corporate governance and international entrepreneurial finance. You can see there the two links. So one is to our summer school website, which gives you more information about the courses that we offer, and also just general information about the summer school. You can also go there to register your interest and to apply as well. We also have our email address there, summer@southampton.ac.uk, if you have any questions after we leave today. Okay, so once again, thank you everyone for joining us, and I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day.